Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, it's too many of you not for me to hear you. So today I am going to be going over our topic. We're going to have a great topic today. And if you don't know me, I'm Xavier Bailey, and I'm the president for the 2019 Manatee Tiger Bay. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. As I said, we're going to be discussing today the Manatee County School District, how we're going to move forward, how we're going to move forward as a community. We all might not have the same ideal of how we're going to move forward, but we know we want to get there for our children, our teachers, our staff that are work in the district, and also our community. Really quick, I would like to introduce a couple guests. We have from the Bradenton City Council, Jean Gallo. Please raise your hand. And we also have Mr. Bill Saunders. Please raise your hand. We also have Will Robinson, representative. Now, if I forgot anyone, I apologize. Thank you. Raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. How you doing? We have Scott Hopes in the crowd, school board member. We also have Dave Miner in the crowd, school board member. Jackie Deleski, our chamber president. Hello, Dr. Mona Jane. Everyone knows Dr. Mona Jane. And we also have a lot of teachers and retired teachers. Would you please just raise your hand for me? Raise your hand, teachers. Thank you so much for coming out today. We appreciate it. Just for some housekeeping, please check all of your cell phones and make sure that they are off. Today's speakers, we have Cynthia Saunders, our new superintendent, Pat Barber, President, Manatee Education Association, Charlie Kennedy, member, School Board of Manatee County, Minnie King, retired principal and teacher, School District of Manatee County. Each of our speakers will have 5 minutes in their introduction. Also, we will have questions by our members after our speakers have spoken. Really quick, when you ask your questions, you have one question. I do not want to be rude to anyone that wants to ask a question because we have a lot of people here today. Please be specific about your question and very concise because we want to make sure that we can get your questions answered. And please make sure you identify if you're a member and also who you're going to be asking the question to. Please, please, please follow our rules. We appreciate it. Or I'm going to give you a little smile, and that means you need to sit down. First, we'll start with Ms. Saunders. Cynthia Saunders was sworn in as superintendent of Manatee County School District on June 28, 2018. The School Board of Manatee County selected her to serve as the superintendent of interim, following former superintendent Dr. Diana Green, who was named superintendent in Duval County. On February 12, 2019, the school board approved a contract to retain Ms. Saunders as a full-time superintendent moving forward. The board members cited her performance as superintendent during the previous 7 months, her in-depth knowledge of issues confronting the school district, and the fact that her leadership would bring a sense of stability to the district as strong reasons for her to continue her service. Ms. Saunders has more than 28 years of professional experience in education as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal, as well as in district leadership positions in curriculum and staff development, as well as the executive director of secondary schools. Prior to becoming superintendent, Ms. Saunders served as deputy superintendent of instructional services in Manatee County from July 2015 to June 2018. During her tenure as deputy superintendent, the school district of Manatee County made significant gains academically. The Florida Department of Education gave the district a grade of B 3 of the last 4 years, 2015, 2017, and 2018. After receiving a grade of C the previous 3 years, in 2018, 90% of 59 Manatee District schools to receive grades that were either A, B, or C grade. The number of these schools dropped from 11 in 2017 to 6 in 2018. And for the second consecutive year, not a single Manatee District school received an F. In addition to Manatee District's graduation rate rose from 77.9% in 2014, 2015 to 83.5% for the 2016-2017 school year. As executive director of secondary schools from 2013 to 2015, Manatee District High Schools exceeded the state average in the percentage of high schools receiving an A or B grade. No Manatee District High School received less than a C grade during Mrs. Saunders' tenure as executive director of secondary schools. Ms. Saunders holds a master's degree from Nova Southeastern University in educational leadership and a bachelor's degree in mathematics education from the University of Central Florida. Please welcome Cynthia Saunders, our new superintendent.
Charlie, you're not late. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. I wouldn't miss it.
First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for the opportunity to speak in this forum. First of all, I would not be standing here today unless I was absolutely convinced that we were definitely moving in the right direction. More importantly, our forward momentum is spread over a multitude of fronts that are essential to the health and success of any school district. So how are we moving forward? Number one, we are improving on academic successes. When I came to Manatee County in July of 2013, there were 18 DNF schools. By the spring of 2018, we had 0 F schools and just 6 D elementary schools. We are a B-rated district, and we have been a B district for the last 3 of 4 years, and 90% of our schools are receiving an A, B, or C grade. Number two, we are financially sound. We've gone from fiscal insecurity to a $30 million fund balance, and we also have outstanding ratings from global financial firms. Number three, we are supported by our community. This has been proven by the passage of 2 referendums and the ongoing support of our volunteers with parents and community business partners. Number 4, we are building 3 new schools. Parish Community High, Dr. Mona Jane Middle School. And can you give us a hand over there, Dr. Mona Jane? As well as Barbara Harvey Elementary All will open in August. They are on time and on budget. We are also renovating many of our older schools. The renewal of the half-penny sales tax allows us to repair, to renovate, add security and technology to the schools that need it the most. I am pleased to report that we are spending the dollars exactly as promised. Number 6, we are paying competitive salaries. From 2016 to 2018, the average teacher raise was a little more than $1,000 a year. This year, with the addition of the 1 mil funding, the average teacher pay increase is $6,300. Absolutely. Our beginning teacher pay has grown from $38,300 in 2016 to $44,400 in 2018, which is one of the highest teacher beginning salaries in the state of Florida. Number 7, we are one of 2 districts that were recognized for the Advanced Placement Honor Roll by the College Board in 2018. We are the school district of Manatee County, and I am proud to be your superintendent. Where are we going now? We are going to be an A-rated district. No matter how many times the state changes the standards, the scoring measurements, we are on a steady climb to become one of the best districts in the state. We are going to clean up that dreadful ERP, and it is a bad 3-letter word. We acknowledge it's been a nightmare. Perhaps the biggest challenge of my career was stepping in on day 1 as superintendent and seeing the magnitude of the problem. We must ensure the fidelity and functionality of this system for the district to have success. We are going to fill scores of vacancies with qualified people, innovative thinkers, fresh ideas, and a team approach to getting the job done. We are planning to transform Blackburn Elementary into an ACE elementary site, and also we are planning to transform Palm View into a K-8 career pathway center. We are leading the way in making our schools safe. We were one of the first in the state to place armed officers at each of our sites. We are going to listen to you as we develop a strategic plan. And finally, we are going to ask for your help. For the success of our district resides on all of us working together for the sake of our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Superintendent Saunders. Really quick, and I do apologize, I want to go ahead and recognize a few past school board members. Mr. Walter Miller, please raise your hand. Also at that table, Jane Faulstecker. Mr. Bob Galls. And also John Cologne. Next up, we would have Pat Barber, who is the president of Manatee Education Association. Pat Barber, a lifelong educator, began her teaching career at Redlands Junior High in Miami, Florida in 1973. After teaching for 1 year, Pat came to Manatee County and taught English at Palmetto High School from 1974 to 1988. Pat was first elected as president of MEA in 1986. During her first term, she continued to teach. She left Palmetto High School in 1988 to serve as the full-time president of the Manatee Education Association. Pat continues to be a teacher on leave from Manatee County Schools. Her areas of certification include English, reading, and journalism. She has spent many years developing relationships with administrators, legislators, and community leaders in order to advance the goals of the Manatee Education Association and public education. Her duties as MEA president include, but are not limited to, representing teachers and paraprofessionals, participating in contract negotiations, enforcing the contract, lobbying, working on campaigns of endorsed candidates, and serving as the spokesperson of teachers and paraprofessionals of Manatee County. Please come forward, Ms. Pat Barber.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for your time today, and I always give this disclaimer. I'm a zealot for public education, and that means that I'm a true believer. I'm a true believer in the mission of public education and for the people who work in our schools every day. That is my goal, is to make sure that the students that come to our schools every day and the people who work in them have what they need, so that when our students graduate, our businesses and our communities have educated citizens to go forth and continue to have people to serve their communities. So to that end, I always like to start by assuring everybody that in spite of the noise that always surrounds school systems, every day, 180 days for our students, teachers and students show up in our schools, and teaching and learning continues. Doesn't matter what you read. Our 2,800 teachers, our 700 paraprofessionals, our 250 administrators are going to work and educating Manatee County's children every single day. So, what are some of the challenges that we are facing in public education today that are also impacting our schools? To understand where we are in Manatee County schools, it's helpful to take a look at the bigger picture. How does our state, Florida, fare when it comes to funding of our public schools and pay for our teachers? I'm sad to report that Florida ranks 42nd in total education spending per pupil, and 51st in public school revenue for every 1,000 of in-state personal income. In other words, no other state collects less to support public schools in Florida. This is just in spite of the fact that Florida has the 7th largest economy in our country. This impacts every aspect of our public education system, from transportation to maintenance to materials and supplies. And yes, it impacts our Florida's system because due to the lack of funding, Florida's teachers are paid 45th in our nation. Florida's average teacher salary is now $10,000 less than the national average. Georgia's teachers are paid an average of $8,000 more than Florida's. Alabama's $3,000 more. We are living in a time when there is a teacher shortage. All school districts will have to compete for the teachers available. Not just those who are new, but those who we want to retain in our school districts. Here in Manatee County, we have struggled to stay competitive with our surrounding counties. For 16 to 20 years, They have expanded their funding sources by asking their communities to support a tax that would go specifically to the general fund, so it could be used for teachers' salaries and our needs that the state funding was not covering. Last spring, with the support of the taxpayers of Manatee County, we were able to do the same. And we worked together to add 1 mil ad valorem to our school tax base. This money is being used to add an average of $5,500 to our teachers' salaries, making us competitive with our neighbors in Florida, specifically our county to the south and our county to the north. And I have seen an ad that's running in Sarasota that says that we now pay our beginning teachers more than Sarasota does, which makes everybody very happy. Yes, you can applaud for that. That's cool. That's very good. At the end, the cost of the teacher shortage, the lack of funding, and the fight to stay competitive has an impact on our classrooms every day. We began this year with approximately 100 vacancies. We have struggled to fill those positions all year long, having to use long-term subs in many cases. At the end of this year, Florida, just Florida, is projected to have 10,000 teacher vacancies. We know Manatee County is going to need a minimum of 300 new teachers. We have to continue finding ways to increase our salaries in order to attract teachers to our state and to Manatee County. The promise of our beautiful beaches and sunny days, although attractive, is not enough anymore. Beyond the issues of salaries, we're struggling every day to keep our talented teachers who have become disenfranchised by a system that only rewards improvement measured by test results. Measured on one test, on one day in a student's academic year. Teachers do so much more to help their students move forward academically, socially, and emotionally. These things are not measured on that day. Finding ways to continue to meet those students' individual needs and helping them meet their full potential under the restraints of the current system is a challenge to our teachers. Using their expertise under these constraints is a challenge they face every day. However, in spite of the challenges that we are facing, we have teachers and paraprofessionals who come to work every day dedicated to Manatee County's children. They're facilitating their learning, helping them grow, and keeping them safe in our schools every day. Thank you.
When I'm standing, that means your time is running out. No point intended. Next, we will have Charlie Kennedy, our school board member, District 2. Charlie grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and before moving here, had been coming to Manatee County since he was a teenager as a fan of the Pirates and their spring training home. Charlie has a BA from the University of Pittsburgh from 1994 and a Master's of Education from Duquesne University in 2003. He moved to Bradenton in 2004 when he started his teaching career. He has worked at Youthville Public Charter School in Washington, D.C., the Pendleton School at IMG Academics, and Manatee High School. Most recently, prior to becoming a school board member, he was a high school teacher of 11th and 12th grade social studies, U.S. history, and economics at Manatee High School. Please welcome school board member Charlie Kennedy.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here. I apologize for running in late. I was breezing through here, and I'm like, oh, I'll just drop the car at valet, and I'll scoot in right on time. And then that didn't work out as planned, so I parked over by the library, and then I cut through a couple of yards, and I stepped in a little bit of dog poop, to be honest with you. So to my fellow panelists, I apologize if you catch a whiff of that. I sat down, and I was like, that's me. but we will get through it together. But that's good luck, right? You step in dog poop, that's good luck. Or is that bird poop? I can't remember. But first and foremost, I want to thank Tiger Bay for inviting me and for holding the forum, Xtavia, Matt, and Elaine, who I was in touch with to get this together. I also want to thank, I'm going to be really short because the superintendent has really covered the positives and Pat has covered some of the challenges already. So I am really not left with much to say. And I think let's just jump, well, after Mrs. King, of course, let's jump right into the fun part, which is the Q&A, right? But I really want to thank a lot of you in this room because the school district is in the solid financial position that we are in currently and that we are in going into the future because of many people in this room who supported two initiatives to garner the support of Manatee County taxpayers and residents. And in 2016, we renewed the half cent. And in 2018, for the first time ever, we passed the millage for the benefit of our teachers and staff who work directly with kids. So this is kind of corny, but I want to give you all a round of applause for supporting. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. But really, I mean, I'm looking around this room, and so many of you were instrumental in that. And the reason that we are in this solid position is because of you. And by extension, our voters who hopefully will watch this later. I just want to give one caveat. I'm done, but I just want to give one caveat when the Q&A does come. Of course, whatever questions will come, but I just want to be really clear that I am here not to represent myself as a board member or talk about my own ideas or my own previous votes or future votes. I'm here to represent the voice of the school board as a whole. So if you want to talk about past decisions, I will talk about it from the perspective of how the board voted. And even if I was not on the prevailing side of that vote, I am still going to say I will always support that position because that's how we move forward as a board. But I am not going. I'm not going to go against the will of the board. So if you do have a question for me as a board member from the board perspective, I just want to be clear that I'm going to answer it from the board perspective, not from my own. And I look forward to hearing from Mrs. King and the rest of you. Thank you.
So, Mrs. King, if you go over, you're okay, because he had 2 minutes left. I will give that to you. Mrs. Minnie King, retired principal and teacher for the Manatee County School District. Born in Sunbright, Tennessee, Minnie Mae's Justice's family moved to Bradenton in 1961, where she attended Bayshore Elementary, Bayshore Junior High, and Southeast High School, graduating in 1968. She earned an associate's degree from Manatee Junior College and a bachelor's degree in social work from Florida State University. She earned her master's degree in education from the University of South Florida, followed by her certification in educational leadership. Minnie worked as a substitute teacher, teaching assistant, 1 through 5 classroom teacher, primary specialist, curriculum specialist, assistant principal, and retired in 2009 as the principal of Bashaw Elementary School after a 35-year career in the school district of Manatee County. Wow, that's amazing. She served on the district and state level committees, writing curriculum and assessments, textbook selection, staff development events, calendar development, and served as the president of the elementary principals. Please welcome Mrs. Minnie King.
Thank you, Xtavia, and thank you, Tiger Bay, for having me here today. And Charlie, I had never heard that stepping in it was lucky. I don't know where you get that from, but that was something new to me. I've heard what the folks have said, and I've heard that many times, and I've read the same things. My perspective and my point of view is really my opinion. As Charlie said, he's speaking for the board, I'm speaking for me, and I believe that I'm also speaking for a large number of teachers, parents, former teachers, former parents, former principals. And I speak more from the culture and the climate of our district than I do from the statistics. I always remember what my graduate school statistic professor said. You can do anything you want to with statistics. And you can make something look good with statistics, and you can make it look bad. But what you can't do with statistics is affect the emotional part of people, the people and how they feel and what their commitments are. I guess, of course, my opinion goes back a long way, and I know you're all thinking she can't possibly be that old and done all of those things, that I look so young. But it's true. It's true. And I've actually been retired for 10 years. Now, that's a shocker, isn't it, too? But I have a unique experience here, and some of you may share this with me, in that I have been a student in Manatee County Schools. I've been an employee of Manatee County Schools. I've been a parent of children, and yes, grandchildren, even a great-grandchild in Manatee County Schools. So I have a lot of different kinds of perspectives. Most of my friends that I knew in high school, a lot of them are still here. Just had my 50th high school reunion, another thing you probably can't believe. But I still see those people. I know those people. I still see the people that I worked with for 35 years. I see them all the time. I talk to them all the time. I run into them all the time. I see my students, people that I've taught, people that were under my leadership whenever I was a principal. And way, way too often, what I hear from them is that things are not good in our district, not good for employees, that the atmosphere and the culture has suffered. When I worked in Manatee County Schools, and when I was a student in Manatee County Schools, it wasn't a perfect place, I'll guarantee you. I was in high school when the teachers struck. I was getting ready to graduate from high school as a senior. And I noticed and I experienced how our leadership handled that. I was here when schools were integrated. I was here whenever the forced busing was brought down, and we had a governor that sat in the district office for a while thinking he was the superintendent. So I've seen a lot of things, and one of the things that I've seen over all of this time is that the people of Manatee County are resilient, that they support one another, and they encourage one another. Now, a lot of you are like me, you're transplants. Some of you are natives here. But the reason you came here, if you're a transplant, is because you saw something good in this community and you wanted to be a part of this community. The basis of a good community is their schools and their school system. And whenever you have a school system, you have to make sure that you meet the needs of every child that comes through that door, whether that child is gifted or whether that child is profoundly handicapped. It doesn't matter if they come from the east and west or they come from the middle of the district. It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor. Your job is to provide that child with the very best education that you possibly can. And unfortunately, from what I hear from the folks that I know and the things that I have seen and the things that I hear and what my brain tells me, that's not what's happening at this time. It's always a struggle to do those things. When I was at Bashaw, we had programs that reached the gamut from the gifted to the profoundly handicapped. We had low socioeconomic students, we had high socioeconomic students. And my goal was to make sure that they, one, first, were safe, and second, were educated the best that I could do. However, what I see, I have 3 points. I'm sorry, is that my time? I still got his. We've chosen programs over people, points over proficiency, she's still sitting, and careers over community. Let me show you how to do that. And because of that, our culture is lacking, and there are people within our district who are very unhappy and are leaving our district in droves. You can pay them all the money you want to, but if they're not happy in their job and they don't feel appreciated and they don't feel as though they matter, that only a program or the people at the top can make all the decisions, then you will never have the kind of school system that I grew up in, one where people cared, one where people were committed, and where I was more than a number, but I was a person. You're standing, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you from all of our panelists. We appreciate you coming today. Now we'll have questions. Our online question will be first, but if you would like to start lining up, you may. My ushers, would you please stand by our lines? If you want to go ahead and start lining up, that's absolutely fine. You must be a member of Manatee Tiger Bay to ask a question. If you're not a member, Elaine, raise your hand. You can pay your $100 today and become a member. Members, to allow everyone a chance to ask a question. Remember, you are limited to only one question. And please do not elaborate. I just want you to come up and ask your question and identify who it is on the panel that you want to answer. Our first question, this is an online question. This was a member. This question came from Susie Copeland. Ms. Saunders, did you really remove students from the district to increase graduation rates? And did parents make a request and complete the paperwork to actually homeschool their kids?
I appreciate you asking that. The answer is no, I did not. But as you know, that situation is currently being investigated, so I cannot go into further discussion. It should be resolved very shortly. Once it is, all the facts and the details will prevail. Thank you very much.
If everyone can answer their questions like that too, that would be helpful. Please state your name and the question for the members, the panelists, please.
All right, you're serious about these rules. Lisa Chittera, board member, and my question is for Ms. Saunders. What is Manatee County School District doing to ensure the confidence and trust in our community?
Well, thank you so much. And for confidence and trust, it is built upon by the whole organization. And I do think it's paramount that we're mindful of ensuring that when parents send their children to school, they know that it is a safe environment, that they're getting the absolute best education possible, and we only get that from stellar employees. I do agree with Ms. King. Things are very different today with the accountability standards and the pressure that it brings with teacher evaluation, as well as their pay being tied to it. It really has shifted the focus in recent years on how we operate in our school systems. We do have a new governor. He is speaking of making some changes, and we are hopeful that we will go back to a situation where, yes, we are all accountable for the academic improvements, but it is not at the same high-level stakes that we currently see today. So thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Dave Watchdog Minor. I'm on the school board. I'm going to ask the question to Pat Barber. You've been around for a few weeks, a few years, maybe a few decades, and I'd like you to comment on your role, your relationship with the districts, and maybe even our current new superintendent. Thank you.
Yes, I have been around a day or two.
Okay.
I came to Manatee County in 1974, so I'm not going to tell you my whole history here, but we supported, the executive board of the Manatee Education Association supported the appointment of Ms. Saunders, and the reason that we did that was multifold, but one of the reasons was because we felt that we needed a superintendent who could step into the position already knowing our operation, taking hold of the issues that we were already facing with the ERP, because that had been a huge issue. She was already working hand in hand with us, getting people paid correctly. She recognizes the role of the union in how the district interacts with the union and our rights under the collective bargaining law. So it was very important to us with opening 3 new schools, having the problems with the ERP, and already having a relationship with her in her role as the deputy superintendent and as the interim superintendent. She had already been on a 6 or 7 month job interview as far as we were concerned, and we had a working relationship with her. So that's how we'd been operating since she'd been here. So we wanted to continue that for the sake of our school district.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Jane Filesticker, and I'm a Tiger Bay member. My question is for Ms. Saunders. I think that there isn't an educator here within the crowd who doesn't agree entirely and wholeheartedly with everything that Ms. King said. With that in mind, I would like to ask you what your procedure is to move forward with your strategic plan, as our previous strategic plan has expired, and how do you intend to engage both educators and the local community in the development of the new plan?
Well, and I believe I mentioned this a little bit prior, but yes, we certainly need the support and the assistance of our community, of prior educators in our system, our teachers and staff that are currently in our system, to come up with a plan that we should be using for the next 5 years and beyond. A strategic plan shouldn't just be kind of like a school improvement plan that you sometimes see in schools, a document that you do for compliance and it sits on a shelf, but it's really not an acting, breathing document. It really should be a framework of our mission and vision for our students, for our staff moving forward. So we will be moving forward with asking for partners, asking for community volunteers, because we will take input in a collective unit of this community on drafting and formulating that moving forward. And I hope that you'll be willing to be one of them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Hopes. I'm a Tiger Bay member and a member of the school board. And this question is for Ms. King. And I suspect your statistics professor probably told you that a poor statistician can prove anything. I have many degrees from USF. I teach research at the doctoral level. And my question is with regards to your statements around climate, which is perception, attitude, and employee engagement. And you mentioned that those things really can't be measured. And with regards to ethnographic research and qualitative research, do you believe that through ethnographic and qualitative research that you can measure employee perception, climate within an organization, as well as employee engagement in an organization to actually measure that attitude and climate you discussed? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hopes. I'm duly impressed with all of your credentials and the abilities that you have and all the words that you've thrown out. Mine is based a little bit more, and you know what, you can do climate surveys, you can do anything you want to, and you can stand up there and say whatever you like. Here's my example of what the climate is like. A few weeks back, I was at a community meeting with Reverend Golden, one of our board members. He has a meeting every week before the school board meeting, and so I had attended several of them to talk with him, because you get to talk to him one-on-one. So you have to sign in, and then you get to talk with him, but I usually ended up talking with him with more than one person at a time. However, while we were standing outside waiting for him, after people had signed up, I spoke with one lady that I did not know. And I said something to her about something, and she said, well, that's really not my name that I put there. That's an alias. Because I'm afraid if it gets back to the district that I'm here asking questions and asking for help from a school board member, that I will be punished for that. I said, okay, I won't ask you what your name is again. What school do you work at? I can't tell you what school I work at as well, because I have that fear. Now, folks, that's one person. And if that were the only person that I have ever talked to over the last 6 or 7 years, and as recent as a few weeks ago, that said that, I would think, well, that's one person's opinion. But people I know, people I trust, people that I have worked with for many long years have the same opinion. When someone tells to me, I'd like to support what you're doing, or I'd like to be one of your members of one of your committee that we're working with or whatever, but I can't do it because I have a child or a family member that still works in the district, and if someone finds out that I'm sympathetic with what you were saying or what you were doing, their job could be in jeopardy. Now, you can quantify that all you want to. You can put it all over a chart of statistics or whatever you want to, but you can't change and manipulate how people feel and how people regard their employers, their employees, and the people that are over them.
That's called ethnographic research.
Thank you, Ms. King. Next question, please.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jim Whitman. I'm a Tiger Bay member. I am a psychiatrist. I work in county jails, which means I have no friends at all. Speaking of measuring, my question is addressed primarily to Ms. Barber and Ms. Saunders. I hear a lot, just from the outside, of concerns expressed, resistance to the current way academic performance of students is measured in the public schools. So my question then is, if it were up to you, how would you measure academic performance, or would you measure it at all? Thank you.
One of you can come first.
We obviously have to have a rubric or a measurement to gauge whether we're meeting the progression that the state or the nation is requiring for our students to be moving and matriculating into the world of work. So there's no doubt we have to have certain assessments or measurable outcomes. However, I think the state of Florida has put it on steroids. And I don't think that there's anyone that would argue from the era of No Child Left Behind to the current state that we've ramped it up with each new cycle of governor or leadership that is managing the state of Florida. Now, I do think the intentions are pure. I think they think that they're doing their very best in making these decisions of ensuring our students' productivity. But remember, the Department of Education has to enact what the laws and the regulations have been voted on and passed and deemed. So, with that being the case, there could be some changes coming. Social emotional learning is one of the biggest topics that are expected to be occurring in the school systems, and we do need to measure what that pulse of the child feels like in school. We do feel that some of those issues are what's driving some of the threats and the violence of our students. We're now living in a state where we have to have armed guards in elementary schools. We have to practice drills of an active shooter on our campus. Who in their right mind would think that in 2019, that's what our school district would look like? So I am hopeful that we will see some changes, not only on the measurable front, but on the safety and security front. We do have to have expectations of learning. But when it's tied to teacher pay, to principal pay, to the threat of closing schools if they can't perform within 2 years, it changes the whole climate of our learning space. Thank you.
I don't know if I can answer it either, but if I were queen, which obviously I'm not queen, I would blow the whole thing up and go back to a time when we trusted our professional educators. We can set some standards, and we can trust them to meet those standards and determine the measurement from multiple measures and not solely a standardized test. Kids aren't standardized, so using solely a standardized test to measure their progress is not appropriate as far as I'm concerned. So I dream of the day when the pendulum swings back and educators are allowed to do what they're trained to do and educate students. Ms. Saunders has to answer from compliance. I do not. Thank you.
Hold on a second, Dr.
Sorry, Dr. C, one sec. I just want to throw in from my former teachers, like Pat, I am a teacher on leave temporarily on assignment to the school board, and I will be back to the classroom. Sorry, I'm not sure if I did that or, anyway, but the, I knew somebody was going to say it, is that I think we can all agree, you must have accountability, you must have some way to measure our students and our teachers versus nationalized norms. But there's two things I would point to that I think no matter where you are in this that are just inherently unfair, fundamentally unfair to students. One of them is that the testing calendar this year was moved back, but we can all agree that it is unfair to students to say your entire school year of work is going to be based on one test over 1 hour and a half in March or April or May, whenever the test is taken. So I don't have an answer to what that accountability system looks like. I would say maybe a portfolio of work or a series of statewide uniform assessments that are given over a period of time. But one test on one day it's not fair to the kid, it's not fair to the students. And then the superintendent alluded to how these test results are tied into teacher pay and administrator pay. But when you have teachers who work at schools of poverty, those teachers aren't going to be eligible for best and brightest, and they're already behind the 8 ball when it comes to their evaluation because the students that are coming into the classroom are dealing with so many more issues outside of education that it's just, we need a system, but the system that we have now needs some serious tweaking. And I'll give Governor DeSantis credit. I think we can all admit, he has come in and done some things none of us expected, especially in education. So I am optimistic that we could see some positive changes this session.
Thank you, Dr. Knuth.
Yes, my question is mainly to Mrs. King. Yes, sir. And your concepts of perception versus fact. I've been involved with the school district since 1968 when I was on a team who defined and put in place our emergency medical services. Have been involved with it since then, and as you, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And basically, if you go from the administration of Dr. Nolan, where when he retired we had 0 DNF schools in our elementary, to when the collapse finally occurred in September 2012, we had 18 of those schools. And recognizing that you were an elementary principal, I thoroughly agree with you that the culture and the atmosphere had gone down to the point that it was toxic. I congratulate you that during your principalships, you kept your school at an A or a B level during that time. My question to you is, what would happen if we all got into step with each other and realized we're coming out of this toxic environment and we need to work together to bring our school district to the excellence that it's headed towards now? What if we were all on that same page, and how can we get there?
Well, it would be wonderful if we were all on that same page. I don't see too many times in history, though, where a community is always on the same page. Perhaps one of the things that would help with that, if our leadership was committed to our community rather than their careers. As of late, and I will say maybe 7, 8 years, the feeling that I have gotten from what's happened with our leadership, and that includes school board and superintendents and administrators, is that people are here because they want to further their careers. They want to use Manatee County as a stepping stone to the next best thing. They're here to pad their resumes. They're not here to be dedicated to this community for the long haul. You can get test scores up like that if you play the game right and you push hard. But 10 years from now, will those children be able to read with comprehension, or will they still be functionally illiterate? And I believe if we follow what we're doing, then that's what'll happen. But until we get people who want to commit to this community for the long haul, get to know the people, get to know the students, get to know the teachers, and bring out the best in those people, then we'll never change.
But you're
And
still
if you think that
related-
I'm going to, and if you're saying that I should hop on board with what's going on, I just want to say, you're not going to hop on board with me, so I'm not going to hop on board with you.
So this is a perception that you're giving. I would suggest the fact.
I was asked to come
No,
and bring
this
my
is a-
opinion.
This is
Okay,
a
okay, question's
opinion.
been asked and the question's been answered. Next. Thank you so much, Ms. King.
Thank you. I'm Mike Barber. Full disclosure, I do work for the school district. And I know most of the former educators are here, and you're one of the large reasons that I came to work for the school district, because I, just thought so much of you and respected you so much. But my question, I guess, would be for Mr. Kennedy. And Mr. Kennedy, I'd just like to get your thoughts on what Ms. King has been saying, and because you were actually in the schools, and just your perception of the culture of the school district.
The simple answer is it's a mixed bag, culture-wise. I think as a board member, I try to stay in touch with teacher friends and new people around the district, leaders, support services, to just kind of get a feel for what they're dealing with. I think it informs my decision making, and plus I just like being in touch with people around the district. I've met hundreds of people. I've made a ton of new friends and met a lot of people I respect around the district, and some of them are like totally gung-ho, look at our school grades, look at the system, but then the criticism can be, which we're hearing from Ms. King, is like, yeah, you can, I'll use a term from the old show, The Wire, you can juke the stats and move the numbers and people get promoted, but in defense of the district and the practices that have been in place that have driven school grades, these are the metrics by which by which funding flows and by which teachers pay, and like I mentioned, administrator pay, and schools are shut down or not, or taken over by private operators. So this is the system in which we live. So you may not like the way the district goes about maintaining those metrics, and I think Ms. King is right. As a teacher, I think education in general in this chase for school grades has lost the personal touch of teaching. Like we look at students, generally speaking, we look at students as what is your test score going to be, and it's an art, as you all know. Like we've all been to school. Like we know who the good teachers were that we still remember today. They're not the people that got the best test score out of us. They're the people that made us feel like we were heard and we were listened to and we were appreciated. So it's a 7,000 person employee group. I mean, there is diversity of opinion, obviously. But I think when you look at the numbers and you look at the trajectory of the district since, as Dr. Conard said, since the collapse in September of 2012, you can't argue with the data. I mean, you just cannot. You can argue with how that data is achieved, and that's an argument that's never going to be settled. There will always be conflict there. But when you look at the big picture, and one caveat I do want to throw into that came up. The Department of Education does tend to tweak the difficulty dial on the state grading system. So I think you have to bear that in mind too. We are a rising school district, but you need to look at statewide, what are all counties doing? And we are rising, for the most part, as the state is rising, but we are rising dramatically. And I think you have to honor that point. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Next question, one more question after Misty. Yes.
Thank you, Misty Servia. I am a Tiger Bay board member, And I want to thank you all for being here because each of you has brought really important information to this discussion. So here's what I want to comment on. Our community is growing and growing fast, okay? We are going to see in most of our lifetimes 500,000 people in this community. So I don't think the challenges are going to get easier. I think they're going to get more difficult. And so my question is there an opportunity in the district to, when you're not planning curriculum, which we know that's taking up all of your time. I understand what you're guided to do, but is there an opportunity to talk with the employees, and maybe the parents too, about the culture, about their complaints, about their questions and their perceived problems, and hear them and look for solutions to make things better?
Who's your question for?
I'm thinking it's for either Pat or Cynthia.
Okay, thank you.
I do think the strategic planning process will be a great opportunity for us to gather a voice from the collective unit of the community, parents, students, etc. We will be conducting surveys to our students at the end of the year. That's part of our social emotional learning plan. With that, we want to know their feelings. How do they feel when they enter the building? How do they feel in their classroom? Do they feel safe? Do they feel loved? Do they feel respected? So we are going to be getting climate surveys out to a multitude of groups. But I do think the great opportunity of having a strategic plan for 5 years is it does able to gather everyone back to read the pulse of what's happening. Many people have retired. There are changes. There's growth. So yes, we will be doing that. And I think in the very near future, this development of where we're going to begin, which will be early summer, will help us get a better idea of how we can improve moving forward. Thank you.
Last question, please.
My name is Mary Condren. I'm a retired teacher. I'm really rethinking this. Number one, I don't like speaking up like this. Number two, it's going to cost me some money to ask the question. And number three,
We appreciate it.
Misty kind of already did ask my question, but let me push it a little harder to get a different or a more detailed answer. Ms. King does bring up some things. I retired early because teaching, I couldn't teach the way I felt was best for my students, and I'm not alone in that feeling, and I think it's important the community knows that. And yes, a lot of it comes from the state, but I don't think it's okay for us to say, well, our hands are tied and I wish it was different and I'm hopeful that things will change. I think as a community, we need to say, this is not okay. And I'm speaking from somebody who benefited from every bonus that was given by the state or the county. So it's not money, it's that I couldn't do my job. I couldn't do what was right for the kids that were in my classroom every day. And as a teacher at heart, that was no longer something I could do. So I think it's important that we address this issue. I have seen, and this is very limited experience, but my own children went to school in the district and they reported, and I have seen gaming the system. And I would like for us as a district to say, we're above this. We are not going to game the system because our money is tied to this. We are going to do what is right for our children because that's who we care about. And my specific question, is qualitative research absolutely exists, but where is our qualitative research? And so a little survey to the students at the end of this, I don't know. The surveys I've seen weren't very involved. I'm saying to Ms. Saunders, could we have a real, serious climate survey of our employees? Could that be the first step of our strategic plan? What?
It's being done before.
Is it? It hasn't, it didn't exist when I was there.
Yeah, but absolutely, that we will end up with, and it won't be a district-derived survey. It will be through an agency and a company that we will survey community members, parents, teachers, as well as students. So that is part of our process, because you have to gauge information before you can even begin the journey of developing your plan. But it's definitely a tightrope between what schools and school leaders are having to do to ensure the success of their schools, the success of their teachers, and ensuring that the students, all of their needs are being met. So absolutely, and that will be forthcoming as well.
Also, don't forget the University of South Florida survey of all employees before.
Yes, yeah. We are partnering with them, but yes, sir. Thank you.
Whew, thank you. Thank you so much. Would everyone please just give our panelists and the people who came up a round of applause? Thank you so much to you all that attended, our members, our guests, and our members who joined today. Our panelists, we thank you so much for what you do. Hopefully, in the future, we all are going to come to a point where we're going to understand that this is about our community, this is about our kids, and the teachers and the people that are working with our kids every day. And I believe it's going to happen. So I want to thank everyone, Mrs. King, Mr. Kennedy, Mrs. Saunders. Thank you so much, Pat. I appreciate it. Now, everyone that's on the board, would you please stand up really quick for me? Hi, guys. Great program today. Thank you so much for all you do. The next luncheon will be held on the third Thursday, and that will be March 21st. We're going into something that we probably haven't done before. We're going to talk about civil rights, the past, the present, the future, how we're going to connect, how we're going to connect as a community, and what we're going to do. And from the different aspects, understanding that civil rights is not just about black and white. It's about the rights of people, individuals. So I hope you will be able to attend. It's going to be very, very good. All right, I have to assign the tiger by the tail, which will go to Jane Faulstecker. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of our meeting today. Also, if you are interested in a topic that you would like to hear or discuss, and speakers, if you would like to hear, please email Elaine at manateetigerbay.org. Members, you may send your speaker questions prior to our luncheons if you visit our website to submit your questions. As a board, we will pick out a question that we feel that can be presented at the program at www.manateetigerbay.org. Thank you to Pier 22, who provides complimentary valet parking. Well, maybe not today, so I do apologize. I do apologize if you had to walk. We appreciate you still coming out to be with us today. Thank you to Charles Clapsaddle and METV crew for taping and broadcasting our forum on METV channels and YouTube. Check out the website at metvweb.com. We also have Channel 7 that's also been here today. We just want to thank you so much. See you all. Have a great day.